Hello, I am just going to do a quick video on how to trim around your dog's eyes. If you're unable to get to the salon for any reason and you want to trim around the eyes, one of the biggest things I see in the salon when owners are trimming them is they tend to kind of go a little bit mad and take too much off, and then when you come to groom them the next time, there's not an awful lot of hair there to play with. And actually, you don't need to take too much hair away from the eyes. The dogs can actually see a lot better than you think they can, because as your dog's walking around the floor, you're looking down on them onto the top of their head. You see hair hanging here and you think, oh, they can't see. But actually, if you were to look at their faces, you'd actually see they can actually see quite clearly. So especially these dogs with long eyebrows like Schnauzers and Scotties, they have these really long eyebrows, and it makes it look like they can't see. But actually, if you were to look through the actual dog can see themselves, they can actually see quite clearly. But there are times when you can't get into the salon, and you might need to trim your dog, especially if your dog has got eyesight problems anyway. Perhaps it's got a bit of an eye infection and you want to clear some of the hair away from around the eyes itself. So we're going to do a little bit of a demonstration on Fred here. So he's actually got quite a lot of hair in his eyes. He needs a bit of a groom, which we're going to be doing shortly. But I just thought I would show you the technique on how to trim around here. So if I bring you a little bit closer. Here we go. Right there, Fred. Right. Here we go. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get hold of Fred's head quite tightly. He's got quite a lot of hair around his face, so it's quite easy for me to get hold of a nice big handful of beard and moustache here, and that means that I can hold his head nice and tight. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull away. I don't want to touch any of this hair here. It's only the hair in front of the eyes that I'm going to touch. So I'm going to ideally use a comb. So if you've got like a metal comb, you should be using a metal comb when you're grooming. So I'm going to use a comb to kind of get the rest of the hair out of the way. So I'm going to trim the hair, just this hair in front of the corner of the eye. So we're not going to take any of this hair away. I'm not going to take any of this hair away at the moment. I'm just going to trim the hair in the corner of the eye. So I'm going to take my scissors. Ideally, you should use round end scissors, like ball nose scissors for this area, just to be safe, just for safety reasons. But whatever scissors that you've got will help. And if you've got them up on a high table, don't try and do this on the floor. Make sure they're nicely restrained on a high table. And what we're going to do is going to trim that hair away. Now you might find that if the dog's kind of putting its head back, you might want to perhaps hold the dog around the muzzle. But most dogs prefer you to hold them by the beard and moustache, because this is the way that their groomer will be holding them, so they'll be used to that. So I'm going to take away this hair here. So I'm just going to go in. I'm going to go in at an angle. Good boy. And just take that out to the corner of the eye. And what you can do as well, this bit in between the two eyes, just across this bridge of this nose, not down here, but this bit here as well. You can get rid of that as well if you want to. Then to do the other side, I'm going to come round. I'm going to come over the top of the head, beard and moustache here. Let's keep that hair out of the way. Again, I'm going to come in at an angle and just take that hair out from the corner of the eye. I'm just going to go across the bridge of his nose there. Again, don't go above the eyes at all. Try and stay in between the eyes. Now, if your dog has a fringe and the hair hangs over the eyes quite a bit and you want to trim that, then take a comb or your brush, but ideally a comb, and bring that, you can almost bring it back down into layers. So you can bring that hair over the eyes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up over the eyes and cut a fringe. It's a little bit easier actually on dogs that have like very straight coats, like Shih Tzus and Resties and so on. So just comb it all down, and you're literally cutting a fringe like you would on human hair. There you go, Fred. So you can be a little bit tricky. which is why it's probably better to leave it to your groomer unless absolutely necessary. Again, just going to cut a fringe like so. Now if you take it too short, then what happens is that coat will kind of curl down, it'll make him look like it's been spanned. So ideally, don't take too much hair off and just brush it back, and even put them on the floor if necessary, and let them shake their heads, and you should be able to see really how much more coat you need to take away. Again, trying to use, I mean, I don't have rounded nose scissors, but ideally that's the kind of scissors you want to be using, just to be on the safety side. What you can also do is, if your dog allows you to, is brush the rest of the hair back, and just the hair over the eyes, the actual eyelids themselves, you can take that a little bit shorter. But please be careful, because obviously if a dog dips its head all of a sudden into your scissors, you can end up taking part of the eyelid away. So that's trimming a dog's eyes. And the other thing I'm going to show you is how to trim around its bottom as well, because that's especially an area that can grow very quickly and can get quite mucky. Right, so what I'm going to do is I've got one hand underneath him, like so. I'm going to lift his tail. Now, not all dogs like this. Some dogs that have tails that hang down, this action would be quite uncomfortable for them. So dogs that naturally have a tail that sits up over their back, this is quite fine to hold the tail up out the way. If a dog such as a spaniel that holds its tail down or holds its tail out would find this really uncomfortable, you can actually damage their back if you force the tail into this position. What I would suggest you do is to hold the tail to one side, and you can still see the hair around the bottom there. And I'm just going to trim that away. Now my hand underneath him stops him from sitting down. So just very carefully, just trim the hair away, just tiny bit at a time. That's a good boy. Again, if your dog's groomed on a regular 4 to 6 week basis, then you shouldn't need to do this at all. It's just this, if you're having to, if for any reason that you can't get to the salon and this bit's getting quite overgrown. It's also very important as well, because I often see dogs with that haven't been groomed regularly, that they have a lot of feces stuck around this area, and that can cause really quite nasty skin problems. Make it very, very, very sore. So it's important that if you're not having your dog groomed regularly, this area is attended to at home. We try not to trim this area too short in the salon, because you can irritate the skin with clippers if you take it too short. So some dogs that have what we call clipper rash that do tend to irritate around here, we might have to do this with scissors rather than with clippers, and it's much safer to do it with a pair of clippers than it is scissors. It's very, as you can imagine, it's very easy to catch them with the blade than it is with a clipper blade. So that's trimming around the anus area and their bottoms, if you need to keep that clean. The other area that you could possibly want to trim around is the feet. Now I tend to use a brush for this, so if you take your brush, and this is more for dogs such as Cocker Spaniels and heavier coated dogs around their feet, but it's a real nice little tip to concentrate on if you're doing the feet and they are getting quite matted. So if you brush all the hair, kind of kick the hair up, trying to pick the hair up with your brush around the pads, and I'm just going to lay my scissors on the pads and just lightly trim the hair around the pads. It's quite important that you're using your scissors in the correct way as well, that you're using your thumb and ideally your ring finger, because this will give you more stability over your scissors. Whereas if you're just using your finger and thumb, they tend to flap around quite a bit and you'll end up catching your dog. So make sure you get used to holding your scissors in the correct way. And you can also go around the foot, like so. And if you're very, very careful with your scissors, you can actually take out some of the hair in between the toes on dogs that kind of get quite badly matted feet. And what you can do is, again, just pull as much of the hair away as you can so you can see what you're doing. With my finger, I'm opening up the pad underneath. I'm just nicking out a tiny little bit of hair. See the front foot. tiny little bit of hair in between the toes, because this little bit of hair often gets quite matted. And again, if your dog's not groomed quite so regularly, and you've got like a grass seed season, which is between May and September, then these kind of areas are really, really important to make sure that you kind of keep those clean and hair free. And it's a good way, again, just using my finger to go in between the pads underneath, and that opens up the toes, so I can just nick out some of the hair. And it's a good way of keeping an eye on whether there are grass seeds in the pads as well. And just make sure that you brush that hair away afterwards. Otherwise, if you leave the cut hair in there, it'll just form a bigger mat. And again, when you brush the hair down onto the foot, you can just give a light scissor round to keep the hair away from the feet a little bit. So that's just a few little tips on how to do just some basic maintenance trimming at home. Like I say, I don't really recommend it. Scissors are obviously can do an awful lot of damage. I've seen, over the years, dogs that have been very severely injured by the owners not using the scissors correctly, mainly because they're not holding the scissors correctly, and the dogs are not used to being groomed. So that means that when they come to try and do things at home, they're 10 times worse for them. But otherwise, hopefully you'll find that quite interesting and helpful.